Ladies and gentlemen, we've got ourselves another banger video by who many could consider at this point potentially the number one. I still think he's the number two, Kurobot, Mr. Glaive Kyo. And the topic of today is about how your money means nothing in Genshin Impact. There's been a lot of talk about Genshin Impact over the past couple of days with their new trailer and their teaser coming out, but I think that none of the hype, none of the marketing, none of the promotion ever matters when this is the type of content that you're getting in the game. Let me just let this cutscene from Genshin Impact 5.7, the most recent update, by the way, speak for me.
Don't let a single one of them get away!
No, please, spare the children! Stay back!
They're coming!
Run! Help!
This is one of the worst things I've ever seen. Not just in, like, video games, not just in, like, media. This has to be one of the most poorly designed, poorly animated, effortless, budget-cutting, budget-saving, disrespectful to the player, absurdly, absurdly lazy cutscenes I've ever seen in my life. It actually looks like a Gary's Mod animation, but they managed to put in less work. I had no idea that people could try so little on a game that costs billions of dollars, and there aren't more people talking about this. And the thing is, it looks like that's what's actually going to be addressed today. If you go ahead and you actually look at the thumbnail of this video, well, that appears to be where the cutscene is from. So I'm very excited to see what this video has in store. Let's go ahead and get right on into it.
The Steam Summer Sale landed recently, and honestly, I barely noticed it at first. You see, I'm not really what you would call a big gamer in the traditional sense these days. For a long time now, my time, and as it turns out, a pretty significant chunk of my money has been heavily invested in gacha games. If you have been following my content, you have probably figured that out by now. But then, as I was just casually browse, a few titles caught my eye.
How about this, Glaive? If you so-called spend so much money on gacha games, where are the videos showing off all of your characters? Where are the videos showing off all of the results of your spending, bucko? As far as I'm concerned, you're free to play in everything. Where's the proof, buddy?
Elden Ring with a massive discount. Persona 5, a long-time community favorite, also slashed in price. Even Expedition 33, Player Obscure, a game I've heard whispers about as a potential game of the year for 2025, had a great discount.
Alright, what the fuck kind of currency is this? Anyone ever seen this shit before? That's like a small D with a small underlined D. What the fuck even is this? Indonesian dollar. They chose it to be that, but like, why is it it's a small D? That's okay. I feel like that's offensive, but they decided to do it themselves. Whatever.
Great discount, even if it's just a small one. Beyond those, there were so many other genuinely great games on offer. Palworld, Monhan Wilds, Black Myth Wukong. This was, and still is, insanely great news for gamers, or potential gamers. As I dug a little deeper, looking for more games to potentially pick up, something inside of me clicked, and then honestly, something worried me. Why?
You know what's crazy, and here's the reality. When DLC first came out, we all hated it. Now we're used to it. Okay, we've been trained, we've been conditioned like little puppies. Loot boxes first came out.
Did Tectone like train his lisp to disappear? It's like, wait, like, no, is this something that nobody has talked about? Bro legitimately had one. Bro legitimately had one 2 years ago, and it just fucking, it fucking pieced out like the second that Honkai Star Rail released.
We hated it, and now we're all trained like little dogs. Pay to win, microtransactions. We're gonna get used to the same goddamn thing, and in 2 years, we're gonna forget about it. You know it, I know it. We are like these corporations' monkeys.
Just a few weeks before this
he's not
I
wrong.
dropped $200 on Skirk, the latest 5-star character in Genshin Impact.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest here, Glaive. I know the game is hard. I know the game is hard now, but $200, brother. Where the Skirk video at?
I got lucky. I managed to snag 3 copies of her and her signature weapon.
I'm pretty sure this guy spends more on Genshin Impact than he does on Wuthering Waves. Yeah, I'm frankly certain at this point he actually spends more on Genshin Impact than he does on Wuthering Waves. What the fuck?
That is what we call a C2R1 Skirk in the gacha world, meaning she has got 2 special abilities unlocked and her signature weapon. Some people would even argue that it was a steal, a bargain. You got really lucky. But the truly unsettling part, when I was spending that money, that $200, I didn't feel it. Not a single pang of regret. There was no moment of hesitation at all.
How much is this dude spending on Genshin Impact?
It was like breathing. It was like eating. It felt completely normal. I just went on with my day without giving it a second thought. And then
Am I the only one here that's thinking that like Glaive is giving me like meth addict energy over here? He's like that dude that works a 9 to 5, and then as he's in the elevator going up to his apartment, he's taking like hits from the crack pipe. He starts like freaking out. He punches a hole through the elevator controls. Fire department has to get called. The second they like use the jaws of life to open up the elevator, he starts getting into a fist fight with 2 of them, and then he wakes up inside of a prison cell with 3 other men. That's what I feel like happened before this video.
And earlier, I had a chat with my mom. She asked why I'd spent so much money lately. I gave her the usual, oh, you know, it's for a game character. And you know how it goes after that. I mean, it's my money, sure. But moms have a way of making you think. She kind of nagged me for a bit, calling it silly. But the more I thought about her nagging, the more the reality sunk in. 200.
I think in the big 2025, anyone's gonna look at you with a side eye if you told them you spent $200 on Genshin Impact. I don't think your mama's the weird one here, bucko. I think she's the most normal person in the house, frankly, being honest. Somebody told me they spent $200 in Wuthering Waves. You know what I tell them? Damn, I hope they enjoy their S6 character.
200 freaking dollars. That is not a small amount of money. That is the equivalent of buying 7 copies of Clair Obscur, 7 full critically acclaimed games. And when I look at my total spending for these gacha games, the weight of that realization hit me hard. It made me sick to my stomach. How could I have been so, for the lack of better word, stupid? And that is where this whole conversation begins. This isn't just about my personal spending habits. It is about the stark, almost uncomfortable contrast between the value proposition of these full, complete games and the often deceptive nature of gacha. It forced me to look at how gacha games truly operate, how they manipulate, and why we as players often justify spending on them. So let's break down this illusion of value, expose the monetization machine, and truly ask, why do we keep comparing apples to oranges when one of those fruits might actually be an empty promise? Let's get into it.
I'm not gonna lie, that intro was, I feel like I learned a couple of things about Glaive from that intro, and some of those things I feel like I wish I could forget.
Now, in Genshin Impact, and really, in almost any gacha game out there, there's this common line you hear. It is not actually about the destination, not about having a fully built, maxed out character. Oh no, it is about the journey. The journey of learning more about the character you just pulled, playing their story quests, diving deep into the lore, or maybe you just enjoy looking at your character in-game, observing their idle animations, or you know, some specific angles.
I feel like this is modded. I feel like this isn't real.
It is like examining a trophy, am I right? But if we're being completely honest with ourselves, that journey often boils down to 2 things. Either you really, truly love that specific character, or you are just trying to justify that $200 purchase you just made. Let's be clear, if you're a cultured human being like I am, you might say that $200 is cheap for a waifu. You know what I'm saying? Like a proper waifu is priceless. But that is beside the point. The point is, instead of doing mental gymnastics to justify spending $200 on a gacha character, these great full games on Steam, with their overwhelmingly positive reviews, they don't need any of that justification.
This is my take on certain characters costing X amount of money. I feel like the argument that a character costs X amount of dollars is entirely dependent on the actual amount of pull currency that you're getting in a game and how the banner system actually works. Because the thing is that if you're ever like in a situation with the game, right, where you're able to legitimately, as long as you like play every day, do all the events and do all the dailies, acquire most of the characters on the roster or most of what you're looking for, then the idea of spending, right, doesn't necessarily actually end up occurring. For example, in Wuwa, right, I don't think it's possible for you to spend $200, $300 a character if you're doing every single thing in the game. I think at max, you'll be at like, if you like lose a 50-50 and go to like max pity, when the patches themselves are giving you more than a pity in terms of like pulls, you know, where you're getting like 90 plus an update, 100 plus an update, then at most, right, I think it could be like 100. It could be like 100 to be able to like finish it off and like, you know, win the, or like, you know, get the guaranteed after a lost 50-50. In a game like Genshin Impact, where you regularly gain 50 pulls a patch, I think one of the most recent ones was 57. The pity in that game is 90. Soft pity starts at 75. The pulls that you get in one update as a free-to-play player isn't even enough to hit soft pity. on one of the banners. It's literally not possible. The whole idea that a character costs that much money, 200, 300 bucks or whatever, it's a lot more apparent in games where the pull income and the pull currency is just legitimately not as generous. And Wuthering Waves is, in turn, like, because the idea of comparison is happening over here, I don't think you actually can spend as much money if the goal is to just pull every single unit. Yeah, 100 bucks is 50 pulls. Wuwa gives 120. You spent 100 bucks. You're at 170. You have to be able to guarantee a character with 100 bucks minimum spent. And the thing is, well, you don't even have to spend the 100 bucks because you have all of the pull packages that are available every single patch. Let's just say, for example, you drop like 40, 50, 60 bucks an update, which, to be honest, for like a leisure activity, 60 bucks every 90 days, there really aren't any hobbies that are cheaper than that. You think about stuff like, I don't know, going to like mini golf, going to a golf course, going to, playing basketball at the gym membership, all of that. A $40 gym membership is gonna cost more. Like a $40 a month gym membership is gonna cost you more than paying like 60 bucks every update for a gacha game. Yeah, shooting range 2, all of that. It's just 60 bucks every 90 days isn't the craziest thing ever. Let me just go ahead and show you guys what like the low mid-level spender experience is like in Wuwa at the very least. You got this for 20 bucks over here. You got this for 9. That's like 7 pulls. You buy like all of these. How much is this? This is going to be like 40 bucks. That's going to be, I mean, for 40 bucks, you're already out there and you have like 30 something pulls, or you have like 25 pulls for 40 bucks. So you literally can get them cheaper. And this happens twice an update. So honestly, yeah, every single update, you can buy these twice. I didn't even realize that. You legitimately can buy these twice, and that would be like 80 bucks. And straight up, you will be able to guarantee a 5-star every single patch. Or like even if you like, assuming you lose every 50-50, you can gain a 5-star every single patch for like 80 bucks. That's just a rough calculation off the top of my head. That's including the free pull income. But yeah, I mean, I think everyone's able to get what they want from that perspective. So I think the whole like multiple hundreds of dollars argument, I don't really think you can make it for Wuthering Waves just because of how inherently different the monetization is.
Let's be clear. If you're a cultured human being like I am, you might say that $200 is cheap for a waifu. You know what I'm saying? Like a proper waifu is priceless. But that is beside the point. The point is, instead of doing mental gymnastics to justify spending $200 on a gacha character, these great full games on Steam, with their overwhelmingly positive reviews, they don't need any of that justification. They don't need you digging through the internet for tiny breadcrumbs of lore hidden in an artifact description or some random in-game book that no one reads. And
but the trailer is so good. Oh, sorry, that's the dog shit thing for the game. This thing is so amazing though. Even though all these characters were mentioned for maybe one line in the past 3 Archon quests. And so the only way to actually know who they are is to keep up with every single Archon quest that just happened, or read or have read all the lore in the game. It's the best trailer ever, guys. One line, you're being generous? Okay, half a line. Okay, a mere reference.
for heaven's sake, you don't need to sit through a story with absolutely god-awful storytelling and no skip button. Skirk's story, for example, was so poorly received, they made memes out of it. I mean, come on, guys. That is a strong indicator. And it's not like my $200 Skirk suddenly let me demolish every boss or conquer every single game mode the game has to offer. I still couldn't even clear the hardest difficulty for the newest endgame content. I remember another creator humorously quipped that you could clear it for the low price of $7,000.
That's actually not true. There needs to be an asterisk added onto that $7,000 price. It can't just be a random $7,000 spent on any C6 character. It's got to be C6 characters that have been released in the past year. Your old C6 ones, yeah, your C6 Hu Tao, she can go fuck herself. Your C6 Ayaka, she can also go fuck herself. Your C6 Alhaitham, yeah, he's fucking himself as well. If you're not in, like, the cool kids club, you know, your Mabawikas, your Sitlalis, all of those, yeah. You know what I'm gonna say, right? Just go fuck yourself. Because you need those units, those specific ones at C6 to be able to do anything in this game mode.
Now, obviously, it was just a joke, but it is a bit grim when you see how many people actually had to cope with that reality. It just highlights that your significant investment doesn't even guarantee peak performance.
And I think that really leans into the whole the money thing is so ridiculous. I cannot believe that there isn't more of like a negative reaction to a game mode that is designed for whales, that's designed for C6 units, and then they also added the stipulation that it can't be your old C6 units. They finally add content that's for the Giga invested players, but you had to have invested in the right characters. There were content creators like Sekapoko telling you, just let whales have this one thing. But what he really meant was, just let whales who have spent in the past year have this one thing. All the other whales, go fuck yourself. Which is like, you know, obviously he didn't say that past part. And it's just hilarious that they managed to just destroy the value of all the past expenditures so many players have made. And the reason why that value was destroyed is because they just made the base kits of so many units so retardedly strong in the past year. Yeah, like I said, like I've been saying, Mavawika raising the damage ceiling of this game literally ruined it. Predatory cash grab that has fucked up the balance of the game immensely. And it's so fucking bad, it's fucked over the whales too. That's impressive. It is impressive to do that in about 6 months. I'm not gonna lie. Hats off to the devs. I've never seen them run a game's balance into the ground in such a short amount of time.
Now for those people who jump in and say, well, Genshin Impact and all of these other gacha games are free games, so you have no right to complain. I mean, let's just break that down real quick. These games are not actually free. They might not have an upfront cost to download, but their entire design, their very core, is built to make you spend. It is a sophisticated machine designed to extract money from you, often without you even realizing it. If you're playing these games free to play, you're not playing it in the way that it's intended. I mean, think about it. The gacha systems, where you pull for the characters or items, are often compared to slot machines. And while they are not legally gambling, because you're not getting real money back, they absolutely leverage the same psychological triggers. They use what is called a variable ratio reinforcement schedule. That is
Okay, Glaive, let's stop pretending to sound smart for a second. Okay, let's not throw around theoretical terms like that, buddy boy. Okay, we're not built for this.
is a fancy way of saying you get rewards after an unpredictable number of tries.
Just say that, bro.
You never know if the next pull will be the big one, and that uncertainty, that little rush of hope, is incredibly addictive. It is why people keep pulling, just like someone might keep putting coins into a slot machine, hoping for a jackpot. And if you have a pity in games like Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail, Wuthering Waves, it just makes you want to pull more, because you're close to that pity. But the banner is going to end. Oh my god, I need to spend money, I need to get this character. These games also subtly make your time a form of currency. They want you logged in every single day. That is why you have grinding, repetitive missions that you do to strengthen your characters.
Why did Eeks look like he was having a panic attack there, just exploring Fontaine? That surely is just a bit, right? He looked like he's literally in distress.
Repetitive missions that you do to
Like, bro's like hyperventilating. What was he doing?
strengthen your characters. That is why you have daily and weekly missions. They train you to log in regularly, creating a habit. And then there are energy or stamina systems, which limit how much you can play at once. You run out of energy, and suddenly you are either waiting hours for it to regenerate, forcing you to come back later, or you are given the option to just pay a bit of money to instantly refill it. It is all about keeping you hooked and making you feel like you need to keep playing or keep spending just to keep up. Because if
That's the whole idea behind the daily system. And clearly, there's been a lot of research done across the hundreds of gacha games that have released. People are just inherently going to be way more likely to spend when they're encouraged to log in daily, see the game every single day, see all the potential stuff that's available, so on and so forth. And the thing is, I think, like, just as a consumer or as somebody that is willingly going to be playing these games, I think the only thing that you can do to really, I would say, just at the bare minimum, right, protect yourself or at least respect your wallet the most, is to simply play the game with the best monetization practices. It's almost like saturated fats, right? Or it's almost like diet and nutrition. You know that at some point you're gonna end up eating something bad because being a vegan sucks. You know at some point you're gonna end up eating something that's not good for you or like not amazing or might shorten your lifespan. And so it's about minimizing the damage while maximizing the enjoyment. Instead of putting in no fat sour cream, which might not exist, that is gonna taste like shit. You're gonna put in the low fat one instead of the full fat one, where it still tastes pretty damn good, but it's not nearly as close to as bad for you, right? You're putting in the margarine instead of the butter. I'm playing Wuthering Waves instead of Genshin Impact. I know that I'm still going to have bad monetization practices as a whole. I know I can still lose a 50-50, but I'll play the game where the banner system is literally better, right? I require less number of pulls. I get more pulls for the baseline game, and I don't have to spend nearly as frequently to get, well, I guess the same number of characters, but then you also got to factor in the characters in Wuthering Waves are just better as well, right? You just have more things available with them after you pull them. So it's almost like getting the taste of... Wuthering Waves is like getting the taste of butter, but the nutrition of margarine. Genshin Impact is like getting the unhealthiness of butter and the taste of dog shit. It's kind of like a non-art. It's almost like, it's a pretty easy choice at that point.
If you miss those dailies, if you let the stamina cap, you will be left behind. And they are very good at obfuscating value. That means they make it intentionally hard to understand what your real money is worth in
690% value. What's 100% value? Nobody knows.
the game. You've got multiple in-game currencies, weird conversion rates, special bundles that seem like a deal. All of this makes it difficult for you to truly track how much actual money you are pouring into these games.
How is one motherfucker talking about what's in the store for this long? Wait, this has to be from a Pokey video, right? I know his editor does stuff like, was he talking about stuff in the store for this long?
Disconnects you from the real world value of your spending. Now, of course, in some places, they actually show you how much money you're spending, but it's not worldwide. Like here in Asia, we still got a long way to go. And then there's the notorious fear of missing out, or FOMO. Characters and weapons are often available for a limited amount of time on special banners. If you miss them, tough luck. They might not come back for over a year.
I think Genshin Impact showing that if you were to buy every single pull and then lose your 50-50 and then also hit max pity, the maximum cost for a character is potentially $470. That is good golly. Good golly, that's impressive.
Or ever. This creates an artificial urgency, coupled with power creep, where new characters are often designed to be stronger than older ones. You feel this constant pressure to pull, to spend, just to stay relevant in the game's ever-escalating difficulty. Now,
and I think that's one of the biggest issues that plagues so many gacha games nowadays, and it's one of the main things that I do genuinely think that Wuthering Waves needs to constantly be getting praise for, is power creep, in my opinion, is the sign of a dying game. Because the developers have realized that they're not able to sell their units based off of their story integration, based off their characterization, based off their design. The only way that they're currently able to sell units and, feel comfortable with their company's performance is to simply push and pump out units that are better than all the other ones. And so you're not pulling them for their design, you're not pulling them for their appeal, you're not pulling them because of how cool they are in the story. You're pulling them because you know everybody else you have is going to suck dick in comparison to them. It's really just short-term profits in exchange for diminishing the lifespan of the game. Straight up. It is such a underhanded, disrespectful practice to the players. And I think the whole Genshin Impact, Stygian Onslaught, that sort of whole situation has really brought it to a head. Where past C6 characters, which, accounting for inflation, by the way, your C6 Hu Tao costs more than a C6 Mavuika. That's how inflation works. The same amount of money in 2020 was worth a lot more than the same amount of money in 2025. And so you literally paid more for a C6 Hu Tao back then than you would for a C6 Mavuika now. And she is like, what, a fourth of the character? 1/5 of the character that a C6 Mavuika is? And then they release content balanced around you having the C6 Mavuika. And so your C6 Hu Tao is completely useless and not usable. Golly gee. I mean, that at that point, right? You have to wonder, why would I ever spend money, or at least spend that much money on this game ever again, knowing that I'm just going to have all of my past purchases turned into dust? Dwayne is like Thanos for his game. Just deleted half of it. Deleted half of the roster, if we're frankly being honest.
Ultimately, the entire business model of gacha games heavily relies on a very small percentage of players. These are often called whales. Players who spend enormous sums of money, sometimes thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. They're the ones who effectively fund the game for everyone else. This means the game's design isn't really for the average player. It is optimized to encourage these whales to keep spending.
I think it's a mix of both. I think it depends on how the game is approaching its audience. Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, those two games are clearly geared towards exploiting their whales as much as humanely possible. Honkai Star Rail, with the fact that they release a new character or two new characters every single patch, HSR has had one patch in the history of the game where they only release one character. Just so you know. Every other patch has been two new characters that are, to some degree, meta-defining in at least one of the game modes. They've gotten to a point where they just start cycling out all these fucking units, all of these units, and make it so that you constantly feel that fucking incentive to pull. And so, all those whales, with that low pull income from the baseline patches, just have to spend money to be able to keep up with the pace. And you have a worse banner system. And you can lose on the light cone banner as well, the 75-25. It's just a recipe made to garner as much cash as possible out of this group and then actually just fuck over everybody else. In a game like Wuwa, where you have at least like these more affordable packages, where you get better deals, why do you think there isn't like a $100 pack here every single patch? Like a $100, $200, $300 pack? Well, it's because this is targeted towards the lower spenders. This is targeted towards the people that don't necessarily, you know, S6 every single character, drop thousands of dollars every single patch, and do all that sort of stuff. It's clear that there's a different side of the consumer base being targeted over here. Then you factor in that there's not rampant power creep in this game, that you're still using 1.0 units and clearing in super competitive times. And then 1.0 units can still use like their best buffers too moving forward. You never actually feel the incentive to pull for a single unit in this game unless you actually like them. You don't see a new character released and you're like, ah, shit, I guess my old one's useless. That just doesn't happen. And if it does happen, it's for standard characters or 4 stars, which I don't think anyone cares about.
It is an inherently exploitative design, plain and simple. But even now, after years of this being
Oh, right. And the last thing that I forgot is, of course, right, I always forget to mention that, yeah, you just buy the fucking dupes in the shop, bro. The strongest dupes for every single character, their S2 is like their strongest one, or at least their second strongest one. It's like the ranking of like a character's nodes in terms of strength will be like S6 at the top. S6 is the number 1, and then it's S2 for almost every single one. Their S2 is their second strongest one, and you can just buy 2 of them from the shop with your after pull currency. So it's just like, even if you want to like experience whaling, or like, oh, I just want to experience what it's like to have a really strong character, it's so easy to do that as well. Versus in, you know, Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail, you could be spending upwards of, I mean, based off their own calculations, $1,000 to be able to get the experience in Wuthering Waves that you can literally get for free.
being talked about, there are still some people who think that this is player friendly. Now, the classic counter argument you will always hear, and it is always delivered with a slight air of dismissal, is, well, you shouldn't compare gacha games to AAA games. That is just not fair. My question is, why isn't it fair? What exactly makes it unfair? Let's talk about the cold hard numbers for a second, right? We are talking about revenue, the actual money these companies pull in. Consider a game like Baldur's Gate 3. It is a game that won pretty much every Game of the Year award.
It's a good game.
Universally acclaimed, and made hundreds of millions of dollars in its first year. Around 447.5 million in revenue for the studio in 2023 to be precise. That is fantastic. That is a massive success story. Now, compare that to Honkai Star Rail. This gacha game, this single gacha game, on its mobile platforms alone, has reported to generate over $100 million in revenue in a single month. The figures vary, but it is consistently pulling in immense sums. So when people say that you can't compare them, it begs the question, are we talking about the sheer financial scale? Because a game generating that much in a month versus a groundbreaking game of the year, making hundreds of millions in a year financially, they are
My idea is that you should be constantly expecting the gacha games that you spend money on, you should constantly be expecting them to get better over time, right? That there should be like some upgrades made, that it should actively be becoming a better game. It's implied that it's going to become a bigger game, but it should also become a better game at the same time. And I think that's where the whole argument really falls apart for a lot of the Hoyoverse games, is that the games get bigger, but they get worse at the same time. More quantity does not always mean more quality. And the thing that Hoyo always ends up doing is that they add more stuff to the game, but the stuff they're adding literally makes it worse. Think Amphoreus 3.0, the worst story arc questline that the gacha space has probably ever seen for its initial versions. Everyone says that 3.4 is like so amazing and so good. Playing that would require me to play the worst story in gacha, so I'm just not gonna do it. Then you think about ZZZ in 2.0. Apparently, the main attraction of ZZZ 2.0 is the fact that they just made your dailies longer at the cost of a dog shit story quest that is literally probably tied with Amphoreus as one of the worst story quests in gacha gaming. Then you have Genshin Impact. They add all this stuff in Natlan, and then they proceed to lock exploration behind quality of life, and then also have the most rampant power creep the game has ever seen in its latter half of Natlan. And then they proceed to make half of the roster actually useless in the new game mode. They're adding stuff to the game. Yeah, the game's getting bigger. The file size is getting bigger. There's more content. But the game is literally worse off for it. It's a worse game after the updates than it was before the updates. When you compare that and then look at Wuthering Waves, you look at something like Septimont, you look at version 2.4, which was released in the middle of like the 2.0 patch cycle. They add in that whole new map expansion. They add in all of these different game modes that you're able to actually experience, right? This is fucking peak right here. This shit is, by all means, it's literally fucking free. This shit is peak as well. This is fucking peak too. They just put in legitimate events like that don't betray the gameplay loop, that are well balanced and well designed. They just uplift the entire experience. Add in the whole new region expansion. Add in one of the best stories the game has ever had. You can literally see where the money is going in this game. You can see where it's gone, and you realize, damn, maybe I do actually maybe pick up a package or two, support a little bit, because I actually see an output for the money that I put in. I'm not just getting the character, I'm also getting a better game. In the Hoyoverse titles, you spend money, you get the character, and you just have this dark feeling in the back of your mind that, okay, now this money's going to be used to go fuck up the game even more. And literally make it worse. And I feel like that's not really a great feedback loop for spenders.
Are absolutely in the same league, and sometimes one is far bigger than the other. But beyond the money, let's talk about quality. And this is where the comparison becomes even more stark. When you look at games like Baldur's Gate 3 or Elden Ring or Black Myth Wukong or even the new ones, Expedition 33, they offer quality gameplay, deep, varied, truly impactful systems, not just flashy animations, but mechanics that give you real choices and consequences. Your decisions actually matter. They shape the narrative. They affect the characters. They change the worlds. In gacha games, your quote-unquote choices are usually which button to press next in a predetermined sequence, rich story and plot. These games deliver cohesive, well-written, emotionally resonant narratives. They tell you a story, and often it is a good one.
Isn't it funny that all these things that he's using to describe the AAA games, you could literally just go ahead and apply them to Wuwa? And there's a reason why so many people say that Wuthering Waves is the only AAA gacha game. Or it's the first AAA gacha game. Because I think quite literally it is. There's a reason why so many people that traditionally avoid gacha, don't even play it, actually end up really liking Wuwa, and then dropping all the other slop.
Skirk's story being memed into oblivion? That wouldn't fly in a game where narrative quality is paramount, and you have a true agency over your character, your build, your playstyle, your progression. It is all yours to control and experiment with. It is not just like, put the fire set on the fire guy. The game lets you play the way you want to play it. The lore is integrated, discovered organically, and it feels consistent. It is not just a collection of vaguely connected concepts.
I'll say it for this stuff though. I don't think Wuwa falls into that bin. Yeah, there's I don't think it falls into that one. But I would say for some of the RPGs that he's talking about, he is casting a bit of a, I'll be honest here, a bit of a constrained net, in that there's still plenty of games where there are like, you know, they're AAA RPG titles, but you still gotta, you know, equip the right thing on the right character. Think your Final Fantasies and stuff like that.
Designed to sell the next character. There are lore reasons. Yes, I will admit, some gacha games, especially from developers like Hoyoverse or even Arknights, do show impressive production values. Their graphics can be stunning, the music can be phenomenal, and the character models are often top tier, but that visual gloss, that is like high polish. It often serves to mask what can be very shallow or repetitive gameplay loops. It is like a beautifully wrapped present that once opened contains very little substance. It is a fundamental difference. Are you investing in a guaranteed rich experience or just the chance at a pretty picture? So after all that, here's the real kicker. The part that truly exposes the massive difference in what you get for your money. A good game, a great game.
Hoyo models, top tier. I think he's probably talking about Zenless Zone Zero. Yeah, I think if you're calling the models in HSR or Genshin Impact good, I think you're literally living maybe 10 years ago. Yeah, the models for those games don't actually look that great. They actually look kind of shit, frankly.
Game doesn't have to be expensive. Yes, the Steam Summer Sale has insane discounts right now, which is part of what sparked this whole thought process. But even outside of sales, the value is just undeniable. Let's take a humble $5. Many of you, myself included, might spend this on a Welkin Moon in a gacha game in Genshin Impact. And for those unfamiliar, a Welkin Moon is like a monthly subscription. It gives you some premium currency upfront and then a daily trickle for more currency for 30 days. It gives you more polls, more chances at getting the character you want, but it is still just a chance. There is no guarantee you will get the character even after buying multiple Welkins. It just increases your odds. Now for that exact same $5, you can buy a full game, a complete experience. Games like Portal 2, a critically acclaimed puzzle game with fantastic writing, or
I find this whole argument of, oh, you can just spend like $5 and play and get a game. That's true. Right? But you're not guaranteed to like this $5 game as much as you're liking what $5 can get you in, like, let's just say a gacha game or something. Theoretically, yes, you can get the value of a full game, but you can also think about it this way. With $5 in like a gacha or something like that, you can guarantee that you're spending $5 on like a game that hopefully you like, versus spending $5 on a game, and perhaps most importantly of all, spending your time as well. Play the game to see whether or not you like it. Even if you can refund, you've still spent your time playing that game to determine whether or not you actually like it, versus spending $5 on something where it's guaranteed that you're gonna like it. That's kind of like the difference between the two.
or Inside, a beautifully haunting cinematic platformer, or even Buckshot Roulette, a unique and intense horror game that has been making waves. These are
And that's the thing, right? You might not like the game on the right. I feel like I would know plenty of people that would prefer to spend $5 in a gacha game than what's on the right over there.
games you own, you play, and you experience fully. No more spending required, no more chances. It is a guaranteed good time. Or how about the $10 price
It's okay, it's not a guaranteed good time. Okay, I think that's a little a little over ambitious there.
point? Many gacha players spend this on a battle pass. A battle pass typically offers you resources like experience materials and sometimes cosmetics to help you progress faster and to build your characters. But honestly, most of those resources are things you would eventually get anyway, just by playing the game, even if it takes a bit longer. It is paying for your speed, not for new content. Now, instead of dropping that $10 on a battle pass for faster progression you will eventually achieve anyway, imagine this. You could buy Stardew Valley. That is a beloved farming and life simulation game you can sink hundreds of hours into, or
Glaive, by this logic, nobody should ever nobody should ever take the express lane on the highway. Everyone knows the express lanes on the highway, right? Where you can spend like $5 or $6 and you like get through the bridge faster. By that logic, right? It's like, bro, why would you spend $5 to get home faster when you could spend it on Stardew Valley? Right? It's like, I think it's a big difference, right? There's a big difference between the two.
Or Hades, an award-winning roguelike with incredible combat and storytelling. Witcher 3, one of the most celebrated RPGs of all time, sometimes goes around for that price on sale, offering hundreds of hours of immersive story and side quests. Or how about Inscription, a unique genre-bending card game? These are not just good games, they are fantastic games. They offer days, weeks, even months of engaging, meaningful content. So which one makes more sense?
You wanna know what they also offer? No sense of lasting progression, which is actually one of the big reasons for why people play gacha games. People like making progress in something, and one of the things that gachas provide by being live service is this idea, right, that you're constantly achieving or growing something over time. That's just like a natural thing that people want to end up doing. And while you do have like a limitless amount of time to play all these like standalone games, you will not have like that sense of overall like gradual progression. And well, you got to sit down and actually play them. So it's like it's inherently like a different audience, because I don't think that somebody that buys Hades off of like the Play Store or sorry, off of Steam is going to be able to like log into, you know, play like for 5 to 10 minutes while they're on the bus or something.
Spending $10 for faster progression and some digital items in a game designed to make you keep spending, or getting an entire critically acclaimed game that you can sink your teeth into for as long as you want with no hidden cost. The choice, when laid out like that, feels pretty clear, innit? And it really drives home that high quality gaming experiences are incredibly accessible, especially when you look beyond the alluring but often hollow promises of the gacha model. This whole experience, kicked off by something as simple as the Steam Summer Sale, has been a profound wake-up call for me. It starkly highlighted the fundamental differences between the genuine inherent quality and the tangible value you get from full-priced games, and the often mediocre, manipulative, and frankly, financially questionable nature of gacha titles.
You could also be somebody that's finished all these games too. I think that's something that also isn't necessarily kept in mind. You can finish these AAA games and they'll be like done. And I think one of the appeals about the gacha genre is the fact that nothing is ever really done until the game EOSs. And so there's that, again, like that constant pursuit, like that constant growth is something that people want to look for. And I think that that sensation is what convinces people to pay a premium. I think most people are inherently thinking in the back of their minds, if I spend $60 in this gacha game right now, this $60 is going to be expensive, but it might actually last longer than me spending $60 on like a standalone game. Because that standalone game is going to have an end, right? I might replay it a couple of times, but it will have an end. But the $60 that I'm spending on this character, on the other hand, well, it could actually be something that lasts longer than what that other standalone AAA game might have provided. And that actually goes hand in hand with the power creep point that I've been talking about. What power creep does, rampant power creep, like in HSR and Genshin Impact, and ZZZ, frankly, to be honest, what it does is it takes that potential value that you were thinking the game was going to have, the gacha game, and it throws it in the garbage. And that's why it's such a damaging thing for the space. That's why power creep is so bad.
It is not about disliking the characters, or the art style, or the general concept of collecting things. It is truly about recognizing that there are vastly different value propositions at play here. On one side, you have games that are complete, meticulously crafted experiences. Their value is inherent. It is in the hundreds of hours of gameplay, the deep narratives, the meaningful choices, the fully realized worlds. That satisfaction, that sense of having truly truly played and experienced something requires no self-justification. You buy it, you play it, it delivers. On the other side, you have a business model that, while sometimes packaged in a visually appealing shell, fundamentally relies on deceptive practices. It preys on psychological triggers. It hides costs. It relies on very small percentage of players to spend exorbitant amounts. The satisfaction you get from a gacha pull or from a C2R1 character often comes with a subtle undertone of mental gymnastics, a quiet effort to rationalize a purchase that, when compared to actual games, feels incredibly hollow. It is a game masquerading as entertainment, but at its core, it is often a sophisticated monetization machine. So my final takeaway here, and my invitation to all of you, is to truly consider where you are putting your resources. Instead of chasing a fractional chance at a digital character, think about investing in something truly valuable and memorable. Maybe it's a full high-quality game like the ones we have talked about, a guaranteed experience that will stuck with you. Or perhaps it is something even more important, like a gym membership to invest in your health. Or maybe something meaningful, like treating your parents into a nice dinner on the weekends.
Why is this motherfucker getting so sentimental? What is this shit?
These are experiences that offer tangible, lasting returns beyond a fleeting digital flow. And speaking of evolving,
Who is this guy?
this channel will be evolving too. Moving forward, I won't just be covering gacha games. We will be branching out, diving into games in general. We are going to start by looking into the Stop Killing Games movement, a really important cause about game.
Okay, alright. Looks like Glaive's getting into some more general gaming variety over here. Excited to see how that one turns out. But yeah, I would say overall, this was definitely like an interesting video, I would say. It definitely had like a very specific point of view on the whole like gacha game versus AAA sort of dynamic that's going on. I think that I genuinely get every single argument that he's bringing to the table, but one thing that this video didn't necessarily hit on as much that I feel like could have been addressed more are the reasons for why somebody would play a gacha game compared to a AAA game. And the thing is that inherently, right, AAA means a lot, or at least like standalone games can deliver a lot, but there's also a lot of things that they can't deliver due to the nature of them being standalone and due to the nature of them having such a different development cycle. And there's a lot more reasons for why gacha as a genre appeals to certain people, like being able to play in spurts of time and then not, you know, necessarily lose anything. It's genuinely like a different medium. It's like long form videos on YouTube versus watching shorts. Gacha games are a little bit like shorts, where you take them in spurts at a time. You can be exposed to a lot of content in a short amount of time, and you only have to watch them for a short amount of time to get their full perceived value. But you will never feel as satisfied from watching a short as you would from a really good long form video. But people end up watching shorts anyways, because they'll just be able to experience and get, you know, potentially more overall value in a shorter amount of time. So I think that's really the differentiations. There's a rhyme and a reason for why people would spend on either one. And so I would just say generally overall, it seemed like a very negative spin on gacha, which I could definitely understand, right? I think that gacha by itself is you accepting the fact that you're eating food that's bad for you, you're eating some junk. It's about how do you minimize how unhealthy that junk is for you, and how much can you maximize the overall pleasure that you're getting from eating something bad. And you know, there are certain games that accomplish that a lot better than others. So yeah, that'll be my take on this overall. Let me know what you all think. Peace.